That's my fault. I was not looking at the clock.
Well, you got big boy huffing around here.
That's what I'm thinking. Ready?
I am.
Rolling.
Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Store brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1475, Feb 3, 2025. 51 degrees, the record high on this day in 1934, and it was 27 below back in the covered wagon days of 1886.
Hail the flashlight king.
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Hite in the newsroom, and of course,
What?
here is
What
your
is
flashlight
this?
king,
I got a
fireworks
king on
commissioner,
a hat,
and the
like a
keeper
Burger
of
King
common
hat.
sense, your mayor, Joe Sushiro.
That's a nice picture.
Oh, my God. That's got to be Pat and Kyle's work. That was fantastic. We got a new open for YouTube.
Gentlemen?
We got to tell the GLers, if you don't normally watch YouTube, make an effort to get to YouTube today.
Gentlemen, we've stirred up a hornet's nest.
Oh,
Well, we haven't. Emailer Emily from last week has
Oh,
stirred
my
up a
God.
hornet's nest
Emily.
with her contention that we run a tutoring service. And I now have from Jonathan Lindahl in Plymouth, Minnesota, given all the excitement around the newly discovered GL tutoring service, I'd like to act promptly to secure spots for the following courses with these specified instructors.
All right.
Modern Technologies, Theories and Applications by Mr. Souchere and Mr. Royce. Advanced Automotive Mechanics by Mr. Matthew Mikulski.
Oh, boy.
The numeral 8 and its significance in complex mathematical modeling by Mr. Souchere.
I'm worried.
AP Civic and Geopolitical Underpinnings of Western European Literature and the Subsequent Influences on the 21st Century American Literacy Rates by Mr. Reavers.
Boy. Oh, boy.
The Ascent, Acclaim, and Attributes of American Neoconservatism by Mr. Hite. Unburying the Lead. How to streamline your writing around the common pitfalls of hyperbolic rhetoric and inordinate sarcasm. Mr. Patrick Royce.
Yes, sir.
And finally, Family and Consumer Science, Personal Grooming and Hygiene for today's cosmopolitan male, Mr. Kenny Olson. Please sign me up for all the above at whatever cost necessary. One simply can't put too big a price on knowledge and influence of this kind. Sincerely, Jonathan.
My
Family
course
and
is worth-
Consumer Sciences.
My course is 2 credits, so sign up now.
Are we missing our calling here?
And Reavers, your course is AP, isn't that advanced placement?
Sure is, Joe.
Civic and geopolitical underpinnings.
That's right.
You got that. Yeah.
Are we missing
How's
the boat
everybody?
here? We should be charging.
How's the staff? Huh?
We're great.
Rook
just
is
fine, thank you.
Rook got waylaid somewhere and didn't have an airplane, and it will be back tomorrow.
Is that irony?
Yeah, he works
The
for
guy that works at the airport?
works for the airport. A sad note. Damn it. You recall we all got a really neat ice cream scoop
Oh, I still use
that
mine.
had a penny embedded
Yeah.
in the top of the
Used it
wooden,
last week.
in the wooden handle.
The wife says, you never put that in the dishwasher. Never put it in the dishwasher.
Nope, hand washed.
Yep.
The Dunning family writes, I am emailing you on behalf of the family of Kevin Dunning, one of your most loyal, avid listeners. We felt it was only appropriate. You don't have to foghorn that. We felt it was only appropriate to inform you that Kevin has suddenly died of an aneurysm.
Oh, no.
Thank you for bringing so much joy and entertainment into his life. It would mean the world to us if Kevin could get one last shout out on the podcast. Hey, Kevin. And if so, we would appreciate if you could reach out and let us know which episode you decide to include him on. Well, today's episode.
Don't throw that away. I'll respond to the
Here,
family.
Tell the Dunning family we just gave a shout out to Kevin.
Every time I use that scoop, and the last time was last week, I think about Kevin and how I got a chance to meet him at the state fair last year.
Yeah.
Dude.
He was there.
And you know what? I'm going to pay tribute to Kevin and the Dunning family. I'm going to eat an entire bucket of cookies and cream ice cream tonight.
I'm going to eat. I'm going to do you better, Reavers. I'm going to eat a bucket, but I'm going to use Kevin's scoop
As
for
the
whole
spoon?
thing. Yeah.
Oh, we're so sorry to hear that. That's sad. Kevin was such a good dude.
He's awesome. Yeah.
You know what Trump is reminding me of? A guy, isn't there a show where you can bid to win the opportunity to own an unclaimed garage or something? Where you win the right to own the contents in a storage.
Storage.
Yeah.
Trump's reminding me of a guy who wins that, and he gets to the White House, and he just starts throwing S out. You know, I don't want this, but I'll keep this. I don't. And then he's joined by his buddy, Elon Musk. And Elon won the adjoining condo, storage condo. And they spend their day there. They got the ball caps on, and they got their sleeves rolled up. And they're just wading through all this junk in there. And they're keeping some, and they're throwing some out, and they consult each other. And they go, this is really fun. Let's bid some more. And they win a couple of more condos, and they win the right to own it. They win the right to do anything they want with the stuff in the condos, and that's it. That's as far as my analogy went, but that's what it's reminding me of.
Do they look at each other and say, look at this?
Yeah.
Look at this piece of crap.
Yeah. Get rid of it.
The whole goal of bidding on those storage units, though, and winning them is resale value.
Right. They're betting that they'll find something worthwhile
To resell.
But not our boy, Trump and Musk. They're buying it in order to get rid of it. They're in there to toss stuff.
So do you think maybe they'll sell, I don't know, California to Mexico?
When the Wall Street Journal says that the tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China are the dumbest thing ever, that's saying something. He's already backed off Mexico.
Gave him a month. Yeah.
See, he went in a storage condo and said, oh, the hell with these Mexicans. I'm throwing this out. And then somebody got to him and said, no, you better keep that. So he said, oh, never mind. I'm not doing Mexico yet.
Hang on to that for 30 more days.
But as the...
Wouldn't the better analogy be hoarders? They bought a hoarder house.
Yeah.
And it's full of crap.
Yes. But those condos are the result of hoarding.
Yeah. You're right. Yep, they are.
There's some suspicion. This is just me. There's some suspicion that some of what goes on is possibly more complex than Trump realizes. For example, the whole car industry is not what we think it is. We have it in our mind that cars made in Detroit. Well, okay, maybe some tires and wheels are attached to a car in Detroit, but maybe O-rings for a transmission are manufactured in Mexico because they can do 100,000 O-rings far cheaper than a guy in Akron, Ohio can give you the 100,000 O-rings. So Ford buys 100,000 O-rings at a time for Mexico. And then maybe Canada has got a shop up there where they can make a U-joint bolt a lot cheaper than the guy in Wichita can make a U. So now the guy in Wichita is still making stuff, but for U-joint bolts, they're getting it from Canada. So all this stuff is constantly coming across bridges. It's in trucks. It's going to manufacturing plants, and a car comes together. But 65% of the damn car has nothing to do with Detroit. It's all over the map. All over the map, I'm saying. So it's dumb. What do you just...
And you'll learn that at the AP course of civic engineering or whatever I'm teaching.
But it's astonishing to understand how many, what percentage of content in the car comes from everywhere, every nook and cranny of the world. and in the U.S. case, much from Mexico and much from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what there's a lot of agencies I would have gone after before I would have gone after car parts. Is what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We already backed off the Mexico.
Well, what was the? He basically got in and saw the U.S. aid and went, "Yeah, that's got to go." Elon.
Is that aid to international development?
Yes.
I can well imagine that's a bleep show of horrors.
Well, the quote that Elon released that struck me was, "This isn't just an apple with a worm in it. It's a ball full of worms." There was so much corruption that was discovered inside of that agency.
Oh, what I love about this, I'll take the counter argument, is that he's not letting the government go on business as usual. He's
Well, you
learning
got
as
that right.
he's learning as he goes, and I think he has our best interests at heart. But like you said, there's going to be some mistakes made, and he might have to backpedal a few times.
Well, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to take my time and take it as it comes to understand why a trade war would be a good thing. He said we'll win in the end. Well, if car prices start to go up and gas prices go up.
When he said that, did anybody come back and say, when will the end be? Are you thinking a month? Are you thinking 2 years? When is the end? When is that victory going to be?
I do think a new president of his mindset walking into that jungle has got to be astonishing to see the multi-layered agencies and bureaucracies and the number of people involved, and he couldn't start fast enough, and in starting fast he's going to sound like a moron more often than not. It was
With all due respect.
well, it was so premature of him on that horrible crash between the American Airlines flight and the military helicopter to just instantly blame DEI. It may come to that. Who knows? But part of his job has to be the guy who sets a tone.
Yep.
And there are certain times when you need to send a warmer tone and a more comforting tone, and that's going to be a challenge for him. He's not that guy. He's not a guy that wants to, put his arm around you and curl up by the fire and tell you everything's going to be all right. So the first thing he did is just lash out at, this has got to be DEI. Well, no, we don't know. It might be, but he doesn't know the rule we've developed in GL. On major stories, you got to wait at least 48 to 72 hours.
This is just a hunch.
Yeah.
I don't think he's capable of waiting
The 48 to 72 hours?
I wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
He's not alone there, though. Everybody in government always overreacts right away within 12 hours of any tragedy.
The finger pointing, yeah.
Always,
for sure.
always. And back to the tariffs, I don't think President Trump never said, well, we're going to have ourselves a good old-fashioned trade war here. That's the press and everybody else calling it a trade war. I don't believe
but trade wars can evolve from tariffs.
Right.
Yeah.
But his goal is not a trade war.
I would hope not.
Well, he did say, though, over the weekend, we're probably going to feel some pain. Americans are going to feel some pain from it. Yep. So I would assume he sees somewhat of a trade war in all of this.
I'm hearing people walk around complaining about the price of eggs. Well, do you think the price of eggs would be any different today if Harris was president?
Oh, the price of eggs
It's
thing
bird flu.
is bird flu. Yeah.
It's bird flu.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, and I don't know if you three agree with me, but it had to happen, right? Someone had to go in and shake up the hen house or whatever the line is. That was we knew that was going to happen. And it needs to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't dispute that for a moment.
Okay.
It's going to be amusing a bit to watch. He's a bull in a china shop, and he's not going to let anything stand in his way. And if it works, hallelujah. But we've entered a weird period of American culture, that half the country, we'll just use that term, half the country led by pretty much, and half the country pretty much has conventional news gathering on its team. Half the country considers it their obligation to resist 4 years of Trump.
100%.
They just to resist the presidency for no other reason that it's Trump, and they choose to resist it because he's icky. They think he's icky, right?
Yes.
And then the other half of the country is pleased that he's president and roots for him to create great accomplishments in cleaning up this mess. But I don't think the country used to operate that way. I'm sure there's always been sides chosen going back 100, 200 years. But it's to the point now where it's almost part of the routine that, okay, Trump's president, I'm a resistor.
But isn't the comeback to that?
And it would be true if Harris was president. The MAGA crowd would be resisting. They would resist this presidency. Mm-hmm. It's happening here in the state of Minnesota. The DFL is resisting the very idea that the Republicans are seated, and they're accusing the Republicans of locking them out of the state house, which is a lie. They're not locked out. They can show up and go to work any day they want. But they're resisting. They don't like the results. They're resisting. Mm-hmm. And the governor's useless because I suppose it stands to reason his team is the one is not seated, and it seems to me that he's not going to display any leadership on behalf of all of Minnesotans. He's going to take the side of his team. His team happens to be the one disputing the Republicans going to work every day, and Walz is chosen to join his team as a resistance to that. Is that reasonable? Is that on the right track? Yeah. He's never done anything to demonstrate leadership, so it's silly to think he's going to now. He didn't demonstrate any leadership on the surplus. He didn't demonstrate any leadership on building a new office building. He hasn't demonstrated any leadership on curtailing fraud. He hasn't demonstrated any leadership anywhere. So it stands to reason he's not going to demonstrate any leadership on this occasion and say, let's get together and work for all Minnesotans. But you'll note that's the message of the resistance. Walz got his boy Ken Martin now to be the National Democratic chair. It's almost as though this buffoon actually thinks he stands another chance to run for president.
I hope he does.
He's putting people in place or helping to put people in place. But Ken Martin is a voice of the resistance, and I think he even used the word that we're the resistance and we've got to get back to working for families. You haven't done that here. All Walz's actions have been harmful to Minnesota families. And the poorer the family, the more harmful. But they pass themselves off as being this gracious group of people concerned about the working man and woman in Minnesota. BS. If you were that concerned, you'd be at work. You'd be cutting taxes. You wouldn't be wasting money. But how are you? How's everybody?
Well,
you know what they got in San Diego around the airport? By the way, that might be the world's busiest one-runway airport.
I like that airport. It's neat.
Good for you.
Oh.
Yeah, you like flying between two office buildings and seeing somebody at the copy machine in the office building?
I think it's neat. You don't like it?
But you know what they got around there? And knock on wood, it all works. They got helicopters flying right and left.
You know, it's funny you say that because when this tragic story surfaced, that's one of the first things I thought about is how many of those military aircraft are flying around the San Diego
see so
airport.
much neat stuff flying there. I saw a plane that has the propellers are mounted vertically, and so it can take off it can just go straight up in the air when it takes off, but it's got an airplane body. It wasn't a helicopter. They got some neat stuff. They got neat stuff.
Isn't that is that the Osprey? There's
I think it's the Osprey.
I think
so.
Every time you...
and then there's an aircraft carriers and...
47, isn't it 47 out there?
I don't know. It's, man, I'll tell you what.
I've seen it many times.
They got some neat stuff.
You're avoiding the real thing here.
Yeah.
How'd you shoot them?
Not too well.
Okay.
Came down with it.
Care to give us some numbers?
No.
Okay, that bad. Okay.
So what you're saying is the game needs a little work?
Well, here's the unfortunate part. The old August slump is happening earlier every year.
February, yeah.
The August slump hit on January 31st. See, before we take a break, can I tell you something?
No, not yet. I want to tell you what happened last Thursday in your absence. Pat Garofalo was
filled in.
Deputy Mayor, did a wonderful job. It was fun working with him.
Good.
But and when you're gone, we try to not bring up where you are, where you went, what you're doing. You know, you like your privacy. Mm-hmm. The very first posting on our YouTube page on Thursday was, "Where's Joe going? I saw him getting on a flight for San Diego."
Well, you don't want to be surrounded
right away.
You don't want to be surrounded by your hordes of fans when you travel, which is completely understandable.
No, sure I do.
Oh, okay.
Of course. Say, I heard something about the dreadful crash in Reagan, which I think undoubtedly will prove to be a tragic case of human error. I don't think we have a conspiracy at foot here, although if you read that ridiculous social media, it didn't take 5 minutes before the conspiracy theories were happening.
Not even.
I wonder who was on that. I did wonder myself. I wonder who was on the plane. But it turns out it was just a bunch of ice skaters and people that didn't know what hit them. But here, I did hear something that helicopter or helicopters at Reagan are often used as taxis for military brass to get them going from one. And I thought to myself, bleep you and that practice, take cabs or have a driver. If Reagan is that congested, and it is, I have people in my family who are pilots and they don't like flying into Reagan. It's congested. It's a congested airspace. And if you've got helicopters in there that are on call to fly some general to a luncheon somewhere, end that practice. That would clean up a lot of the air traffic.
Right. I saw one of the phrases was, "It's just always rush hour."
Well, don't.
Right? At
you
that
know
airport.
what? Join the rest of the world and have a driver take you in a car to get to the luncheon. And don't be flying around when planes are landing.
Right.
There. I just solved the whole Reagan
End of speech.
airport situation for you. Yeah. Did you want me to do this already?
I do, yes, please.
Precision door. Every GLer needs a garage door guy, and our garage door guy is Precision Door, Minnesota. They serve western Wisconsin and the entire metro, and they are really good at what they do, and they inform you when they're on the way, and they got all the parts with them, and bing, bang, boom. And also, if you need a new door, they have models for every budget. They send out a garage door designer. That consultation, of course, is completely free. And think of what a new door might do: increase security, increase insulation, improve the aesthetics. They cover it all. They're your garage door guy, Precision Door. Put this number in your contacts: 612-263-6985. Or if you prefer to book online, you can book a new garage door consult online, or just book your appointment online. Precision Door MN, one word, precisiondoormn.com. And right now, by the way, if you get a new door, they're throwing in a new door opener. That's a value of more than $760. precisiondoormn.com.
Guess who's back? For her third go-round with the Garage Logic podcast. I'm talking about the best in the business, and that's Linda Keller and Keller Tax Services. Find her online at kellertaxservice.com. It's tax season.
I know. I'm filling my grocery bag full of stuff.
You know what? Who would take care of you is Linda Keller. Here's the deal, GLers. Go ahead, Ken.
I just want to take some time out of your ad to speak to Linda personally. I'll be talking to you before Friday, Linda. Thank you.
Kenny, knowing that her campaign was starting today, I made sure I called her last week to get my appointment booked. But here's the thing. Her copy points read as following. This is my third year with Garage Logic, and all I have to say is thank you to all of the GLers that have trusted me with your service and your taxes for last year. Your 2024, here's how awesome she is. She sends out a package reminder of the things to, basically, hey, dummy, get your S together. This is the list of stuff you need.
Here you go, Chris. I just got mine Saturday. There it is. See, there's my planner.
She basically knows more about me and my organization than I do. She's fantastic. So she says your 2024 tax organizer should be arriving soon, like John just let us know. If it hasn't already, be on the lookout. I'm proud to say I handle taxes for 3 out of the 5 knuckleheads at the Garage Logic podcast. So you know I'm the real deal. She absolutely is. We all use her personally, except for Joe. And she'll take care of you. Find her online. It's KellerTaxService.com. It doesn't matter where you're looking for personal, business. She handles all types of returns for all types of situations. And she's not your typical tax pro. She's one of us, and she's fantastic. But find her online today at KellerTaxService.com. And please mention that you heard about her on the Garage Logic podcast.
Well, let me ask you something.
Talk to me.
So Reavers uses it, Hite uses her, and Kenny uses her. Mm-hmm. And you're giving me a little grief because I don't. Had you all previously had a tax preparer that you frequented?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Can I tell you how this...
Why did you dump the one that you had preparing your taxes?
Well, she was still doing them even though she moved to Florida.
Oh, well, so you have a good excuse.
I have a good excuse, and she understood.
What about Kenny?
We had been using the same company for, 20 years or more, and he's now in Edina. And we just felt that we got lost in the shuffle, and we're convinced they made some mistakes a few years ago that cost us dearly.
Another wonderful reason to go to Linda and you.
Yeah. Well, my guy retired, and I was on the...
You can stop right there. You need a new one.
And honestly, my relationship with Linda started on a personal level, and then it turned into...
You mean like dating?
Well, don't make it weird. She's married.
Yeah, that was creepy.
And she's way out of my league.
Well, I'd go to Linda in a heartbeat, but I've been with the same firm for 20 years.
I understand it.
And for all I know, they're not any good.
Right. But here's the thing. The reason she's starting, right now is her appointments do fill up. Yeah. So get in touch with her today. She's the best.
This is Super Bowl week.
Nuggets?
Not yet.
Dang it.
But I do have a note from Paul Keefe, who writes, "My fear. Hail the Flashlight King.
Hail you.
As NFL football turns into a reality show, if Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift on TV during the Super Bowl, Jumbotron and all, 65 million viewers, you will be 100% correct, because I've predicted that the NFL is morphing into a quasi-sport/reality TV show. And Paul notes, God help me, I hope I'm wrong. He's a proud member of the 21sters, and he's glad to have one of the few GL flags. That's probably unlikely to happen during the Super Bowl, but it would absolutely not surprise me if it did. That's where the game is.
Now, do you guys remember? I had to look it up. I couldn't remember his name. Ian Johnson from Boise State.
Running back. Yeah.
He proposed to his girlfriend, the cheerleader, after the Fiesta Bowl in 2007. It was quite charming, actually.
Uh-huh.
But they were relatively unknown.
Are they?
And America wasn't sick of them.
Are they divorced yet?
Johnson is still wed. I just read online, Kenny, to the woman he proposed to after the game. And they have one daughter.
This is how much of a nerd I am. Fun fact about that game. Remember the winning play in that game? It was the fake Statue of Liberty.
That's right.
It was really cool. That's how he scored the game-winning touchdown, then proposed.
Well, and that's great. I'm just here to tell you that I don't foresee a proposal at the Super Bowl. But again, if that happened, I would absolutely not be surprised. I just
Okay, Kenny.
yeah, I just don't think that either of them need to cross that line. Into
you're right.
that kind of. She's a fairly famous woman, and
Well, John said she got shortchanged at the Grammys.
I didn't. Joe did.
I was getting reports. A lot of girls that I'm familiar with, they just were glued to the Grammys, and they're young girls, and they all know who all those people were.
Sure.
I had no idea. And but Taylor did not win a Grammy last night.
May I ask
Cowboy Carter beat her out.
May I ask a question?
You may.
When they're gathered to watch the Grammys, and
Well, they were at their own house, Chris.
I see that. Do they still wear the Chiefs garb, or does that just get saved for football game
That'll
day?
be used Sunday.
Got it.
That's right.
So it's a different outfit situation.
But I don't see that happening. If it does, as I say, if it does, I certainly will not be
right.
Surprised at all. The Feeding Our Future trial begins today for the organization's founder. I bet John has this in his news, which is fine with me. Amy Bach is said to, or is alleged to be the founder, and she has a co-defendant, Salim Syed. They'll be on trial in the federal fraud scheme. Of 70 charged in total related to the investigation, 30 have already pleaded guilty, and 5 were found guilty by trial last year. Amy Bach continues to insist that she's just on the up and up. You believe what you want. She's listed as defendant number 1 in the Feeding Our Future indictments. The trial starts today along with Salim Syed. Bach is considered the highest profile defendant in a large scheme that prosecutors say used the federal child nutrition program funds they received as a slush fund to enrich themselves rather than to feed children. I remember a couple of years ago when we were just realizing that feathers were beginning to hit the fan here. I went to one of the St. Paul locations that was listed as a distributor of food for the kids. And it was clear to me that it wasn't happening. It was clear to me that it was even the windows were frosted. You couldn't see through the glass, but no one responded to my knock at the door, and it was clear to me that nothing was happening. Jury selection began this morning. In a trial brief filed just a couple of weeks ago, federal prosecutors recapped the case against Bach and Syed. It says during the COVID-19 pandemic, Bach and her company recruited individuals and entities to open more than 200 federal child nutrition program sites throughout the state of Minnesota. It also says that Feeding Our Future fraudulently obtained and dispersed more than $240 million from that program. Syed, standing trial with Bach, was co-owner of the Safari restaurant off Lake Street in Minneapolis, which is one of the supposed meal sites where kids presumably would have been standing around the block, which never happened. One meal count form, which is used as evidence, shows Safari claimed to feed 6,000 kids per day during 1 week in February of 2021. No one caught that. None of Walls' people caught that. They fed 6,000 kids a day.
It's a lot of food, Joe.
During a week in February of 2021. Not plausible. Didn't happen. As I've said many times, if that happened, that would have led the television news in the Twin Cities. They would have loved nothing more than to send somebody out and film 6,000 hungry kids. Never happened. Prosecutors say little or no meals were served, and the money was funneled to shell companies to be laundered. And BMW dealerships were rubbing their hands together in glee. Here comes another food guy.
Was Was Amy getting kickbacks?
That's how I believe Amy was allegedly getting paid. It sounds to me like what Amy did, allegedly, is set up the scam.
Yeah.
And she would say to Saeed, okay, you got a spot here. We need more spots. Let's set up 200 spots.
And they released her from jail, Joe, so she's free, but she doesn't have a passport or anything like that.
So she finds 200 patsies to say, look, you're going to bill them for food, but I get this much. That's how I take it. So whatever Saeed got for billing for 6,000 meals per day for 1 week, that was probably a couple mil. Amy allegedly gets her taste from that. But Amy was getting a take, allegedly, from the 200 bogus operations they set up. Get it?
Got it.
Yeah. And it got so complicated. We were flying in people from Seattle to bribe jurors. It's just fantastic. It's one of the best frauds ever in the history of the country. It was the largest food fraud of the pandemic era by far. And Walls, you have every reason to be proud of that. That's something you might put on your resume, that you presided over the largest food fraud in the country.
I'm sorry.
Many more defendants await trial or may get plea deals. The government has tried to recover money, which they say in some cases disappeared overseas. Only a portion of the funds have been recovered. So far, of the alleged 240 to 250 million lost, only 50 million has been recovered. So,
what's interesting with Walls, you just mentioned all this happened under his watch. He's still trying to sell Minnesotans on the fact that there's people going hungry. He's still hammering on the Feed Minnesota bullshit line.
Kenny, that's exactly what I was going to bring up because he continuously tweets about it. And I think, dude, read the room.
But you guys got mad at me last week when I said if you're hungry in this state, you're an idiot.
Well, that's a harsh judgment.
No, but the larger point I was making, and probably very clumsily, is that we're not short of food programs.
We're not.
I can't go to Mass without bringing a can of beans. You gotta
bring beans, you cheapo.
Well, no, whatever.
Come on, bring some food.
You bring some raviolis or SpaghettiOs and meatballs.
Or we have a second collection for the food shelves. I mean, it's everywhere, which is great. My point is, we got food.
One of the classes we're going to start offering with the Garage Logic tutorial service, is going to be how to be a what is it, Kenny? We're going to teach criminals
how to be a drug mule.
So, the story that I saw this morning with this very T-ledger for this one fraudster? You'd think, all right, I want to keep him off the scent, right? I got to come up with some creative numbers. This dummy literally wrote a round number of 6,000 across like 15 straight days. Or months or whatever. Like, you idiot.
Right on the nut.
Well, you know what?
Mix it up.
It worked, though. It worked.
But they finally got caught. But my point is, he didn't even try to be creative with the numbers.
With this outfit running the state, you didn't even have to be creative.
I suppose, but you're thinking, just do like 5863.
What an amazing group of people that is. And
you mentioned the storefront, Joe. I'm actually impressed that they went so far as to find some property, even though the windows were frosted and the snow wasn't shoveled.
Well, I'm not sure anybody was in there.
Yeah, but I'm really impressed that they found a storefront with an address.
Well, it wasn't expensive real estate.
I think I know what you're saying.
About 300 square feet.
If that.
Oh, my God.
And I walked all around it. I went to the, looking at the back. Is there a picnic? Because initially I thought this would be a site where kids were fed, but it became very evident to me that no, this must be where they're going to claim that food was loaded on a truck to take somewhere.
Ah, sure.
Because there was no indication whatsoever that anyone had ever eaten anything there.
It's like they have a handbook or something, because you remember we talked to Jay Coles last week about childcare fraud, and he said the same thing.
Yeah.
He went to a few storefronts, and it was obvious there were no kids in
what
there.
was the line? Oh, they hear at night.
Yeah.
Well, he saw some woman drive up and said, Well, they're here at night. Oh, okay. Jay said, haha. Sure
Okay,
they are.
yeah.
Sure they are.
They get here
Honest
at
to
about
God.
10 p.m.
Honest to Pete.
They're third shift daycare kids.
Jeez. You got a twin in the car.
That's right.
Yeah. Why don't we take a time out and come back with our own Mr. John Hite?
Not before I remind all of the GLers to stay tuned all month long as we announce a new GLer of the week every single week throughout the entire month of February. All you got to do is be an annual Town Council subscriber, and you're automatically entered each and every single month. And if selected, you're going to get a shout out on the show and that amazing $50 gift box from our friends at Masters Maples and mastersmaples.com. Don't wait. Join the Town Council or upgrade your membership now. And you, yes, you could be the GLer of the week. All you got to do is go to garagelock.com for all of the details.
This guy wears many hats, just not indoors. Joe Souchere.
Evidently, I took my own advice. I seem to remember a few months ago telling everybody to put a can of Seafoam Deep Creep in their vehicle. That way you'd always have one at the ready. Well, this morning when I needed to unlock a frozen padlock, I went to the truck hoping I had a can of Deep Creep in there, and there it was, right where I told everybody to put it, rear door in the door thing. Yeah. So that padlock opened just fine.
It's a padlock.
Thank you. Here's what Seafoam Deep Creep does. It really does the job. It gets rid of squeaks. It gets rid of the moisture, rejuvenates rusty parts and tools, lubricates. It keeps on lubricating and protecting long after other products have given up and they don't work. Deep Creep works on everything. Firearms. It coats tools. I've done that to most of my sockets. Coat the sockets to prevent future rust. Just splash a little on that deer knife before stashing it away till next year. I use this stuff on everything. It's our best friend, and it's loyal to the very, very end. And you can find Deep Creep wherever fine automotive chemicals are sold. Just look around. This stuff is better than homemade meatballs, and it's another wonderful product from our friends at Seafoam. We call it Deep Creep.
If I may interrupt just for a second, Kenny, I used it on the hinges of my back door last week, which were squeaking like crazy.
Yeah.
Within about an hour and a half, boom, no squeaks at all. Just
GLers, use it on the hinges for your the hood on your vehicle.
Yep.
That's a great place to use it.
Don't you wish they'd invent something like that for your joints?
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah,
could I just put grease circs on my elbows and knees?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
That would be so awesome.
Go in, get on the rack, go up and have a guy with a grease gun get you.
Isn't that with that Ben Gay and stuff? Doesn't that help?
Who knows?
Oh, all right.
Here's John Hite in his newsroom.
Thank you, Joe. This news brought to you by North American Banking Company. As Joe talked about, jury selection began this morning in the federal trial against the founding member of Feeding Our Future, Amy Bach, founder of the now-defunct nonprofit organization. And she says the claim is all untrue. Everything that Joe told you about, she said, not true. Her lawyer saying she was, and this is a quote now, hoodwinked. Played by the people she trusted.
Oh, I bet.
Oh,
yeah.
Too generous? Was she just too generous?
But she could have that culture that Walls embraces, which is they're just too darn nice.
No, that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
They are, as I said, picking a jury starting today, and opening statements in the trial will begin next Monday, February 10. Ken Martin, the longtime leader of the state Democratic Party organization in Minnesota, will be the new Democratic National Committee chair after winning Saturday's election as the party tries to turn the page and recover from a dismal 2024. Martin had been the front runner from the beginning of the race, leveraging his relationships with the more than 400 voting members of the DNC that he forged over more than a decade of work inside the institutional Democratic Party. And those relationships proved essential as he clinched a majority of the voting members on the first ballot, more than 100 votes above the second place finisher, Wisconsin Democratic Party chair Ben Wickler. Remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this, the protesters that interrupted the House Public Safety Committee meeting at the state capitol?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Ramsey County Sheriff Bob Fletcher has a letter to Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, House and Senate leadership, and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court Natalie Hudson asking for metal detectors at checkpoints at the Capitol, with Fletcher saying, I mean, 38 of the 50 states have metal detection and checkpoints at capitals. 12 do not. We're one of the 12. Senator Warren Limmer is a member of the Capitol Security Committee, which is chaired by Lieutenant Governor Flanagan. Limmer stopped short of endorsing metal detectors at the Capitol, but he told our friends at 5 Eyewitness News that in the past, protests were allowed in the rotunda or on the Capitol steps, but not on the House or Senate floors and not during any committee meetings. There is a state law that says interrupting state business is not allowed. Sheriff Fletcher said his office is now investigating the disruption of the Public Safety Committee as a disorderly conduct issue.
Okay, the large guy that led that had the bullhorn.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to go into an actual meeting, or is that what they're contesting?
Sheriff Fletcher says, no, you can't, and Warren Limmer says you can't. They said there is a law against disturbing or stopping state proceedings, not just on the floor, but
the big guy with the
meetings.
bullhorn should have been limited to what? Being outside, maybe?
Yeah, and if it were up to me, he wouldn't get in the Capitol at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can trust this or trust me, but I have noticed since that day, since that event, was that 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
There have been extra state patrol troopers signing on for Capitol duty. I hear them all sign on in the morning, and I've noticed a lot more signing on for Capitol duty.
I don't think the big guy with the bullhorn's getting in again.
I would hope not.
No.
A Delta flight heading to Amsterdam from Minnesota was diverted back to the Twin Cities shortly after taking off Sunday night. Data from FlightAware showed the plane was in the air for an hour after takeoff before diverting back to MSP and landing. Delta Flight 160 safely landed back at Minneapolis-St. Paul International after the pilots reported a mechanical issue with the flaps. According to a spokesperson with Delta, the flight was carrying 272 passengers. Law enforcement is investigating after a man was found dead in a ditch near Hastings Sunday morning. Hastings police officers responded to the 1300 block of Ravenna Trail just before 10 in the morning after a person called 911 and reported a deceased man in the ditch. The man's identity has not been released. However, law enforcement think the incident is connected to a report of a missing man and a suspicious fire investigation at a residence on St. Croix Trail in Denmark Township about 2 in the morning on Saturday. Officials are asking anyone who saw a car stopped on the side of the road in that area between 2 in the morning Saturday and 9:50 in the morning on Sunday to reach out to the Hastings Police Department or the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Organizers of the Ice Palace in Delano say the attraction will be closed for a few days due to the combination of weekend vandalism and warm weather. Social media post made on the attractions page says the vandalism happened late Saturday night, and due to the damage and Sunday's warm temps, the Ice Palace will be closed for a few days for repairs to be done. As of right now, the Ice Palace will reopen. They're saying this Thursday. Team members say the palace will be growing due to the colder temperatures expected this week.
What sort of vandalism did they say?
They did not, and I tried to find it. I'm assuming they probably knocked over some structures, but I couldn't find that in any stories. So
Was it that warm yesterday here?
it was very, very nice.
Yeah, it
39.
was
Sunny?
It cooled off though as the day went on. But
I
yeah,
see.
It was a nice day yesterday.
I took a walk in the sunshine, and it felt good.
All right.
It wasn't horrible.
I had a really good look of it from the inside of the Buffalo High School gymnasium where I spent all day watching basketball.
I see.
Yeah.
I love Buffalo.
It is a neat town. You know what we
It
did
is,
after the
it really
game,
is.
boys? We drove on the lake on the way home.
Boy,
It's a
I wouldn't
huge,
do that.
Huge
There was
lake.
50,000 cars out
I know.
there.
I've just never been a lake drive on an ice guy.
Gotcha.
What a wuss. John, would you say that you were walking on sunshine? Would that be
Oh,
inaccurate?
see.
With Katrina?
Oh, sorry, I was going to start singing, but
Walking on sunshine.
why don't we take a break on that note and hear from Mr. Reavers?
Speaking of water,
Hey.
how about
Hard
Hofferman
water?
in Connecticut? Yeah, listen, hard water is awful, and it does a lot of damage to your home, your appliances, all sorts of things. You know that gross, icky, ishy rust stain
Yeah.
you got there?
Yeah.
Call my friends at Hofferman in Connecticut.
right. And they'll get rid of that?
They're going to 100% get rid of that, Joe. Here's the deal. Hofferman is an independent water treatment dealer offering sales, service, and rental options if you're a short timer for Connecticut water treatment systems. That includes water softeners, iron, rust, and odor filtration systems, and of course, drinking water systems. And that's because a new system from Kinetico can do so many things that other water softeners just simply cannot do. It's going to cut down on your salt usage, but like I mentioned, it's going to protect your appliances as well. Here's the deal. Bad water can affect almost every aspect of your home. I'm a 2-time customer of Hofferman and Kinetico in my current home and my previous home, so please do me a favor and get in touch with my friends at Hofferman Water today. 612-895-2440 or visit their website, which is hoffermanwater.com. Either way, you can book that appointment and have them come out for that free water analysis, and they're going to give you what's called a water score to show you what kind of options that they can provide for you. But get on the schedule right now because spring is right around the corner, and that's when they get super busy. So call them today, 612-895-2440 or hoffermanwater.com. Hofferman Water has been proudly serving the state of Minnesota for over 50 years. Please do me a favor and mention that you heard about them on the Garage Logic podcast.
Here's a man who spends hours in hardware stores, sifting through the nuts and bolts of life. Joe Souchere.
I feel like maybe I should read the news like this with that in the background, baby. In news, international news, President Trump this morning said he is pausing for 1 month that new 25% tariff on goods imported from Mexico after Mexico's president agreed to send 10,000 soldiers to the U.S. border to try and prevent drug trafficking from Mexico. The president in a social media post said that during the pause, quote, we will have negotiations on the tariffs. He said they'll be headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives of Mexico. The president of Mexico, President Sheinbaum, said, I look forward to participating in those negotiations as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. The announcement of the pause came 2 days after Trump slapped 25% tariffs on goods from Mexico and Canada, as well as a 10% tariff on goods imported from China. U.S. stocks, which had opened lower this morning, regained most of those losses on news of the pause. Trump said in his Truth Social post that he and Sheinbaum spoke this morning ahead of the announcement of the pause. He said he and Mexico's president said that the 10,000 Mexican National Guard troops that she is sending to the border with the U.S. will have the mission of halting drug trafficking from Mexico.
So what if this was the plan all along?
I don't understand why it would be, Chris.
Well, okay, hold on. Look at this from a business perspective. That's what Trump is. He's a business guy, right?
Yeah.
So that was the initial. Let's just phrase it this way. That was the initial offer. It was rejected. It's like buying a house.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the whole goal was, as he said, was to stop the flow of illegal drugs coming into this country.
Yeah.
And now he got the Mexican Guard to send 10,000 troops to the border.
Hope it works.
Well, what if it does?
It's a negotiating tool.
Exactly.
Here's Johnny Hite.
Okay.
We still have the Canadian ones going on, the tariffs, as of midnight tonight, and sports fans in Canada making their feelings known. Fans of the Toronto Raptors game continued an emerging trend of booing the American national anthem. Fans of the NBA's lone Canadian franchise booed the anthem after similar reactions broke out Saturday night at NHL games in Ottawa, Ontario, and Calgary, Alberta. The Trump administration on Friday fired a group of prosecutors involved in the January 6th criminal cases and demanded the names of FBI agents involved in those same probes so they can possibly be ousted. It's a move that backs the game plan from Project 2025 as they try to purge agencies of career employees seen as insufficiently loyal. Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Above ordered the firings of the January 6th prosecutors days after President Trump's clemency action benefiting the more than 1,500 people who were charged in the U.S. Capitol attack. Meanwhile, it was learned yesterday that Acting FBI Director Brian Driscoll had refused a Justice Department order that he help in the firing of the agents involved in those cases. The Justice Department ultimately did not dismiss Driscoll, the head of the Bureau's Newark field office, who is temporarily serving as its acting director. A former member of the FBI's elite hostage rescue team, Driscoll promised agents that he would follow the law and existing FBI policies. Elon Musk said this morning that he and President Trump were in the process of shutting down the U.S. Agency for International Development. Musk did not say what legal authority he thought the White House has to shut down a federal agency without congressional approval or how quickly the administration planned to act. He said the idea had the full support of the president and that he had spoken with the president on the matter several times. Trump has said that he is freezing virtually all U.S. foreign assistance pending a 90-day review. Congress annually appropriates money for USAID to spend primarily for foreign aid and internationally focused charities. President John F. Kennedy had created the organization by executive order in 1961. Senate Intelligence Committee plans to vote on Tulsi Gabbard's nomination as the director of the National Intelligence Agency during a closed session tomorrow, according to two people familiar with those plans. After a shaky performance on her confirmation hearing last Thursday, Gabbard faces an uncertain path out of the panel. She's not expected to pick up any votes from the Democrats on the panel, and at least three Republicans, Senators Jerry Moran of Kansas, Susan Collins of Maine, and Todd Young of Indiana, are viewed as possible no votes. Gabbard's bid to become the DNI won't necessarily be over if she does fail to win a majority on the panel, but it would send a signal against her candidacy that could effectively nix any alternatives to bring her nomination to the Senate floor. Elon Musk unfurled several posts on X this weekend in support of Gabbard, while seeming to take aim at the skeptics. He called Young a deep state puppet, but then later met with Young and said the two had an excellent conversation, and Musk said, "I stand corrected."
Did anyone see Meet the Press yesterday on TV?
I did not.
Kristi Noem was the guest.
Oh, I'm sorry I missed it.
And she's the head of Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And she had a white cowboy hat on. And she had long, flowing, beautiful hair, and probably had spent at least 2 to 3 hours in makeup and just looked like $1 million.
Was she topless?
She might as well have been. And it seemed very contrived, the cowboy hat.
I'm shocked.
She stopped just short of arriving there on a horse, as though she was patrolling the border on a stallion.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. She is a lovely woman. I don't know why the cowboy hat is.
But she's not like that gal at the Grammys that showed up with no clothes on.
No. Kristi leaves much to the imagination. That trained pet that Kanye West has. I don't know what the problem is there. I don't know what the deal
Now,
is.
for $1 million, what did they discuss?
No idea.
Had the sound off.
You are normal. Okay. All right.
Oh, boy.
Crews are on the scene.
But we were so patently theatrical that I just had to laugh.
Who gives it F?
Yeah.
I'll be over here.
Crews are on the scene of the Potomac River today to retrieve the submerged wreckage of that airliner and the Army helicopter that collided midair last week. Authorities have recovered and identified 55 of the 67 people killed in the crash. And Washington, D.C. Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly has said they are confident all will be found. Crews were expected to begin the work of lifting the wreckage this morning, and they could be seen aboard a vessel with a crane early. More than 300 responders were taking part in the recovery effort. Divers and salvage workers are adhering to strict protocols and will stop moving debris if a body is found, according to Colonel Francis B. Para of the Army Corps of Engineers.
According to the people diving, it's a very, very difficult sight at the point of bringing the plane up, because I'm sure there are people that were tangled right there where the helicopter hit,
At least 7 people died, 22 others injured when a mid-sized medical transport plane crashed Friday in a Philadelphia neighborhood. The Mexico-registered Learjet 55 took off from northeast Philadelphia Airport shortly after 6 p.m. local time, set to return 11-year-old Valentina Guzman Murillo to Mexico after 4 months of care at Shriners Hospital in the city. The craft was unresponsive to air traffic control and descended steeply less than a minute after departure, immediately killing Murillo, her mother, 4 crew members, and a car driver, and leaving a 5-block debris field. Workers identified the plane's black box 8 feet deep within the impact crater late on Sunday.
8 feet deep. You think that plane hit hard?
Oofta.
Holy mackerel.
Problems we do not have in America. A Queensland man in Australia in his 50s is very lucky to be alive after he was attacked by a massive kangaroo.
You're right. We do not have that problem.
Did he have the boxing gloves on like on Looney Tunes?
He suffered serious hip injuries and wounds to his arms and chest. The man would have bled to death if his next-door neighbor had not been home to help him in the aftermath, according to Willow's Rural Fire Brigade's Rick Underhill. The man encountered 2 kangaroos, one male and one female, on his property.
Uh-oh.
The female kangaroo fled before, and this is a quote from the fellow who was attacked, the other bastard turned around and attacked him.
Yeah.
The animal was estimated, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
6.5 feet tall.
Wow.
220 pounds.
That's a fighting kangaroo.
Wait a minute. They get that big?
We have
really?
marsupials in this country. Possums they have a pouch. But possums are version of the
It's like
kangaroo.
a second cousin of the kangaroo?
Vaguely. Sure, they know each other.
The man was driven to Emerald Hospital before he was airlifted to a hospital in Rockhampton, where he was in stable condition. There are public warnings in place for 2 large kangaroos in Willows that may pose a danger. Kangaroo attacks are rare, but they can occur when the animals feel threatened, according to research on the government's website. Underhill said, and Underhill apparently likes this word, "This bastard wasn't provoked. I've been out here for 13, 14 years, and I've never seen a problem. I spent 20 years in the Army, for instance, in all sorts of conditions, and I've never, ever seen a roo attack someone before."
Everything in Australia will kill you.
Was
the
he protect-
bugs, the
Yeah.
bees, the
snakes.
pigs, the snakes,
They
the
got the giant
kangaroos,
spiders, too.
spiders, everything there will
Was he,
kill you.
was he protecting his lady? Is that what we're suspecting here?
Well, the lady ran off. I don't know. Who knows? So
Kangaroos are protected, so you can't take care of them.
They're like deer in St. Paul. They're wandering around the urban areas now.
I guarantee you some of those ranchers are taking care of them and not telling anybody.
Oh, yeah.
If you got a backhoe, you've
Time
got,
kangarooing down.
Speaking of ranchers, I was doing investigative research for the program.
I think so.
Information gathering. I don't think it's all that rare that Christy Noem was wearing a cowboy hat.
She likes to wear a cowboy
Well, she's
hat?
a ranch girl,
That's true.
you know.
Yeah.
When she shot her dog, I'm sure she was wearing a cowboy hat.
I have actually, truth be told here, since you did that story, I've been trying to find out what kind of pickup truck she drives, because that's how we judge people, on what they drive.
I couldn't help you. I don't know.
Kenny,
I hope it's not a Dodge.
Yeah, the bride would out, because we would go to horse shows, and her brother was in the rodeo for a couple of years. And what they call is, you look at the cowboy hat. If it's rolled or whatever, like a baseball cap is, where it's curved, that's a real cowboy. But if it's a flat brimmed, that's what they call a Cadillac cowboy, meaning it's all show.
I see.
But Christie's got a real cowboy hat.
there's I have a buddy who says there's a lot of, shall we call, cosplaying Yellowstone fans out there these days. So that's basically where all the cowboy stuff is.
There's a shop on the island of Coronado that caters to military groupies. You can buy flight jackets adorned with patches that look important but are meaningless, because obviously they're catering to groupies. And hats and shirts and all sorts of things. I thought it was very
If you're a military groupie, do you do the same things that, like, for instance, rock and roll groupies would
I
do
don't know.
backstage
I don't know.
between songs?
For all I know, that might be the case, but they wanted an awful lot of money. I paid way too much for my jacket, my military jacket that I bought. Yeah.
Joe, do you own a cowboy hat?
I don't.
I do. I have one.
Yeah. Well, I live in the sustainable urban core. You know what we're going to have to put to death in our house?
Oh, no.
The
Coffee
CP?
The coffee machine.
Oh, no.
Now, that's going to be a sad occasion. I consider it a very fine piece of machinery. It's an espresso machine.
Single cup, little single serve deal?
That's it.
Yep.
And but she's dying, and I know why. It was overused during the period when we had guests living with us. That thing was it
Constant motion.
It just got too worn out. It finally is saying
take it
to me,
anymore.
it's finally saying to me, "Man, I've had it. I can't spin around anymore. I can't do it."
You know, they do the
We have
combo.
another one still in the box, ready to go, because
the
I knew
backup.
Nice.
I knew
Yeah.
she was fading. And
Hey, Chris, can you give me the time and temp if you don't mind? Kind of wondering what we're looking at here.
Well, it's just a sad day when you have a piece of machinery like that you've grown attached to, and it worked, and it lasted 3 or 4 years.
So before you throw it into the trash, you're going to give it one last look and go, thanks for everything, big fella.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a wonderful piece of, I think it's German. It's very efficient.
Help me if I'm wrong here. Did this coffee maker suffer any injuries when you tried to beat the coffee beans to death and then use it?
No, I did that in another state.
Okay, good.
I did that in another state. John, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we'll take just a little time out here. From the Friday Star Tribune business section, Minnetonka-based Onward Investors purchased the 31-story Ameriprise Financial Center at a big discount, adding to its growing portfolio of downtown Minneapolis office buildings. The firm paid $6.25 million in cash for the property at 707 2nd Avenue South. The building last sold in 2016 for $200 million.
That's a 97% reduction in price.
How can this be?
Well,
it's 960,000 square feet.
It tells you everything, doesn't it?
It'll soon be vacant since its namesake tenant, one of the nation's largest full-service investment firms, is considering is consolidating workers in its client service center a few blocks away. According to a Thursday news release, Onward is exploring a variety of options for the property, including conversion for non-office uses. Well, how can Onward, this Minnetonka-based real estate company, how can they go wrong? It presumably could never get lower than $6.25 million.
No, this is the bottom. This is the absolute bottom.
Well, they might be shrewd as hell to pick this thing up.
They are.
What's that mean for the homeowner? Will you keep using the Delta ground crew worker at the airport, and his wife's also got a part-time job, and they have 3 kids, and they live in South Minneapolis near Lake Nokomis. What does this do to their property taxes?
Well, it's going to go up significantly.
Well, this is amazing. What if this keeps going? Minneapolis is going to be deader than a doornail.
Well, and put this into perspective. You lament the new, state office building, and I know this is in Minneapolis, not in St. Paul, but that's why this would have made so much more sense for them to just completely redo a beautiful downtown structure as opposed to wasting the kind of money they did on a brand new facility.
The same firm recently partnered with Edina-based Willow Peak to acquire another downtown office building at 300 First Avenue North for $5 million, and is helping finance the stalled West Hotel project near the North Loop. With a $125 million fund fueled by private investors, Onward has been on the hunt for discount office buildings across the country. They've closed buildings in Charlotte, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia. I guess I'll stop right there because I don't know what's happening. But what I do know, I do know what's happening. Nobody wants to work downtown.
Right.
And Ameriprise, I take it Ameriprise, am I correct in assuming Ameriprise didn't own the building?
No, they were a tenant they were a tenant of the building.
Well, do we know who's taking this loss?
Isn't it I thought it was in the story.
Hold on. Let me find it.
Yeah, I don't know who's taking the loss. But somebody had to own the building. It's too long for me to read it on the air and try to find out who owned it. Because of its central location, the Skyway, it's a blank canvas. It's just amazing. It's a gorgeous building.
Right across from Minneapolis Club.
Yeah.
Plenty of underground parking. So they'll convert it to residential, I guess.
City assessors most recently estimated the value of the Ameriprise Financial Center to be $70.6 $8.7 million. That's the figure that will be used to calculate taxes payable this year. The city will release a new round of assessments in March.
So you're reading the Star Tribune article. The one that I read is from Axios Twin Cities. It also, I tried to look at it. It also does not name.
Neither does Bring Me the News.
Well, does it? Maybe Ameriprise owned it.
They may have. I don't know, but I was looking through this, but I thought it was listed, but it's not. I'm sorry. And one of the, this is Nick Halter. One of the things he suggested that it might happen is they might convert it. The issue is if you convert it into residential
apartments
or whatever. But the problem is there's so much vacancy right now. I don't know how that would make any sense. The other thing that this firm might be suggesting, or that he's suggesting with this firm, is they might convert it to a hotel. Go ahead, John.
The building was purchased in September 2016 by Morning Calm Management, a commercial real estate management firm from West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay. So are they the ones who
there
took
it is,
the hit?
right there,
Yeah.
John.
Correct.
You're right.
Yep.
So they took the hit.
Yes.
And I suppose that's just a beneficial tax consequence to them. That's a giant write-off.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel. That's just amazing. There's so many buildings in St. Paul that could have accommodated state workers. They didn't need the new office building, but Walls didn't have the intelligence or the competence to say, wait a minute, we don't need this.
What was that warehouse? How much did he buy that warehouse
I
for?
think
Do
he
you
paid
remember?
about $6.5 million for the fruit warehouse.
Bix. Wasn't it the Bix?
Yeah, it was going to
Produce?
be a morgue for COVID.
Yeah.
And then that didn't pan out.
We're going to put grandma in the freezer.
I think they probably sold it for about $2 million. I'm sure he didn't make any money. He couldn't run a lemonade stand. Honest to God, we're just so burdened by this fellow. Only because
Yes, sir.
they come to us. I was out that way. They come to us all the way from, I'm going to get it for you.
Here we go.
Lake Las Vegas.
Are they still there?
You
Yes, the
tell me.
Traveling Lyman's in Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. It was on this day,
Feb 3.
in 1809, Congress created the Illinois Territory, which includes all of present-day Minnesota east of the Mississippi River. Well, there's not much in Minnesota that's well, half the state, I guess. Huh? On this day,
Kind of depends on where you're
I know,
at.
sure. On this day,
Feb 3rd.
in 1917, 11 competitors in the Red River St. Paul Sports Carnival Derby, the first 500-mile dog sled race on record, completed an 11-day journey from Winnipeg to St. Paul, with Albert Campbell of the Cree Nation finishing first.
Wow.
And that became, if I'm not mistaken, the short-lived 500-mile snowmobile race from Winnipeg to St. Paul in conjunction with the carnival.
One that you've covered.
I never saw it, but I covered it.
I swear we talked about this last week.
Well, yeah. Pat's on the other room there. He's starting to fire his... Okay, on this day...
On February 3rd?
In 1931, airmail service began in the Twin Cities. No, airmail service between the Twin Cities and Winnipeg began. So look at that. That's two on this day in history in a row that have Winnipeg in it.
If you sent letters via the mail through dog, it would take a while to get there.
11 days.
Yeah.
On this day,
The shortest month of the year, Feb 3.
something happened in sports.
Okay.
On this day in 1979 was on this day.
Hockey related?
Fred
Nope.
Tarkington threw the Super Bowl.
Nope. Baseball related.
Somebody go in the Hall of Fame?
Nope. The Minnesota Twins traded Rod Carew to the Angels
Man.
Bastards.
in exchange for outfielder Kenny Landreau, right-handed pitcher Paul Hartzell, 2 rookies, left-handed pitcher Brad Havens and catcher third baseman Dave Engel, and an estimated $200,000. Carew, who batted left-handed and threw right-handed, remarked, I love the Minnesota fans and I like living here, but it was no longer any fun playing. I feel that California has the players to win the pennant, which they did with Rodney. Then they caved in on Mock like a sack of potatoes. He posted a .318 batting average in his first year with the Angels and helped them reach the league playoffs.
Did he get his 3,000 hit with them as well?
I don't know, Chris. I don't know.
Against the Twins.
I don't know.
I don't know. Was it?
Told you.
Who cried?
Harmon did. He was in the
When
broadcast
Carew
booth.
got traded or when he got his 3,000th hit?
Discipline.
Harmon was
Can't hear a word he's
Harmon
saying.
was very
Upset.
when Junior, that's what Harmon called Rodney. Harmon shed a tear when Rodney got his 3,000th hit. Harmon was in the press box.
Yes, sir.
Probably an announcer, I think.
That's what Pat just said.
Yeah.
We couldn't hear him.
Yeah.
Kenny's giving us the look of shame.
That doesn't stop Pat. He just talks as though he can be on the radio.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, GLers. Thank you.
GLers, please do us a favor. If you haven't done so already, you need to subscribe to the Garage Logic YouTube channel. Yes, Garage Logic has a new Open on the YouTube channel. If you missed it today, go back and watch the Open later on. But yeah, please do us a favor and subscribe to the Garage Logic YouTube channel. You can also follow us along on social media.
I'm just leaving. I've had enough.
On Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all there for you. Just search for Garage Logic and sign up for the Daily Logician. It's an email. It comes right to your inbox each and every single day. It includes the most recent episode of the podcast, and you can find out more by going to the website, which is, of course, garagelogic.com. Hey, Joe. What month has 28 days?
All of them.
Attaboy.